Okay, this is Tony Cataldo, and I'm doing the Desi-Drvr who, what, when, where, and why. And what is your name?
Graham
Gra-
Wickham.
Graham William, like
Wickham.
Graham Cracker. Okay, William.
Yeah, just Graham is good.
Graham. Okay. And what happened, buddy?
Oh, as far as
We're going to interview you on how alcohol has affected. This is about how it affected people's
Okay.
lives, and how did it affect your life, buddy?
right. Well, the first experience I had with alcohol was in my family. My mother was, as it turns out, an alcoholic and a drug abuser. This is back in the 1950s, and we were in a nice part of Los Angeles, so as I told you before, it wasn't on the wrong side of the tracks, but that's just how she was. She'd grown up in a culture where drinking and smoking was it, but she let it get the best of her. So all the time we were growing up, when I was very young, of course I wasn't aware of that, and it only dawned on me as I got a little bit older. And I thought back to three different things that showed the effect of alcohol. One was that when I was like 10 or 12, she would send me down to the liquor store on the corner about 3 blocks away, and she had some kind of an arrangement with the guys that owned it, that they would send me home with a bag of Jim Beam for her
Okay.
anytime she needed it.
Okay.
And here I'm 10 or 12 years old.
Wow.
And so I knew what the problem was, but I just, I'm just a kid and I do what they want me to do.
Right.
Prior to that, maybe when 8 or 9, my father went on a business trip back east, and so she was taking care of us. She was the only one, and we ate and everything seemed to be okay, but she would like become useless in the evenings. And the worst one, I can still remember this. One of our dogs, big dog, decided to barf on somebody's bed, and it was an open bed; it hadn't been made. And I was young enough that I didn't, I don't know how to clean up vomit. So there it is, and it stayed there for like 2 days. And thinking back, I realized what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it was like, this isn't very nice. This is kind of awful. The room was dark and it smelled, and my sister and I were just like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, not a pleasant experience. And then, a little older, teenager, Christmas time, she and my father had an argument, and they're in separate chairs in the living room. And we had there, back at that time, you could get a candy cane that was that big in diameter.
Wow.
And it was not the whole cane, just a stick, peppermint stick.
Yep.
So she got mad and she threw it at him, and I remember it hit his nose and cut his nose open. There was blood.
Okay.
And so Christmas Eve, we're taking him into the hospital, the ER, to get sewn up. And this is, Merry Christmas. She was argumentative and all that. So
got beat up by a candy cane.
yeah. I mean, it was, like I said, it wasn't little. I mean, that thing probably weighed a pound.
No
it had
kidding.
a sharp
Yeah.
edge on it.
Wow.
So he had his stitches, and we came. Oh, another time, see, it's all coming back. Another time, she got mad at my father. My father was not home, and so she decided to take my sister and I. We're going to go driving into Hollywood and find a motel, and she's going to leave him for a couple of days. And on the way in, she's obviously drunk. She sideswipes a car and doesn't stop, of course. She says, oh my God, and then keeps right on going. We never did make it to the motel. She got back home, but it was, and I had a best friend whose mother and father became, to me, my real parents, because they were much more loving and caring in their family.
And they would attend to things normally.
Yeah,
normally.
Right. And I spent time over there with their son. He was my best friend, and so I had that to balance things off. But as I look back, I could see that life in our family was dysfunctional, and mostly due to alcohol. Now, my father wasn't an argumentative person. He didn't yell back, and they had these knockdown dragouts. He just kind of bore it.
Right.
With this. Actually, he didn't take enough action, but he was very stoic about the whole thing. And he did love her. They didn't sleep in the same bed. And I mean, it molds your thinking and your emotions without you realizing it. And then as you grow older and you look back, you say, of course, this is what was going on, that was what was going on, and so
Right.
on and so forth. And
Yeah, when you're young, you don't know what's going on.
No,
Yeah, you
I
have
mean,
no clue.
most children, when they grow up, life in a family is life in your family,
And
and that's
you're
the way it is. I
And
mean,
you're
that's normal.
assuming it's normal.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly, and it's only later when you find out that it wasn't
Yeah.
normal. And as I mentioned to you before, I loved her. I didn't have arguments with her often, and we got along very well. We had games that we played when we were younger, mother and son, and
Yep.
my sister, and it was, that part I remember with fondness.
Yeah.
And I loved her then, and I love her still.
Right.
But I can see the effect that it had.
Yeah.
It's hard to gauge what the direct effect on me was.
Right.
One thing, I enjoy drinking a glass of wine with a meal, and I've only had hard liquor twice, didn't like it either time,
Right.
and have never been intoxicated, and have no desire to be.
So what period of time was this that you were this time in your life? I mean, how many years
How many years what?
that you've had the effect of alcohol?
Oh, okay. From as young as I could understand,
Okay.
which would probably be
Yeah.
that something was wrong, would be 7 or 8,
Okay.
until I left home.
Okay.
Uh,
Who, what, when was this? Where was this? Where?
This was in Burbank, California.
Burbank, California. Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you think it happened?
Why there?
Why did this all happen in your life with alcohol?
With her?
Yeah.
Okay. Her sister, her older sister, was a way worse alcoholic than she was. And from what I've learned from my mother's side of the family, there is a tendency not to be able to deal with alcohol physically.
Okay.
And yet the world that she grew up in, Hollywood, she knew a lot of actors and actresses, though she herself wasn't one. She got involved in that whole scene, and I think that was where she wanted to be.
Right.
And alcoholism, well, her older sister's husband was a well-known character actor, and he was terrible with alcohol. And
So it was a culture
it was a culture
in
It
the
was a
scene
culture.
of the 60s.
Right. Well, the 50s, the
50s
40s,
and
and 50s.
40s and
Yeah.
50s. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a culture and that's a scene
Yes,
of what's
and it
normal.
went along with cigarette smoking. Both of them were
Yep.
chain smokers.
Yep.
My father died of cancer related to smoking.
Smoking. Okay.
So it was just part of that culture. But with you get involved in the culture and you can't see what you need to do to correct the things that are wrong
Right.
in your life, regardless of the effects that it's having on.
Usually the wisdom comes when you get older. The clarity, it becomes clearer. You can see things that you didn't understand before. So we have enough time for this going to be cut short because
That's
we
okay.
don't.
That's
But
okay. Whatever
we
you
want to have your advice, Graham, on what do you recommend to the young people of the world about what do you think? What do you recommend? What's your advice about alcohol?
My advice is that alcohol is not something that we should shun completely. Wine, as the Bible says, makes the heart of mortal man rejoice. So that's not condemned, but it's learning to control it,
Right.
and seeing the results on other people.
Right.
And you don't have to go far to see that, and realize that if you go to the point where you become addicted, you're in trouble, and the people around you are going to be in trouble.
So moderation, and there's warning flags. You want to make sure
Exactly.
Yep, but we're trying to have young people learn about the effects of alcohol
Yes.
because there's travesty everywhere. Some
Yes.
people that have not been able to control it, and so
Yes.
if you know that there's people who've had difficulties with it before, you may want to, look the other way and not even partake in it, or moderation.
Right. If you can't do it in moderation, don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah. Okay, buddy. My battery's running low,
Okay.
but I appreciate you, Graham. Thank you
Sure.
so much, and
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure and nice meeting you in your business. And we'll talk again. Thank you.
Okay.